Hey everybody, this is Keith Mateka from Thunderworks Games, checking in on the interwebs. Today is a big day for us, so we are launching our Kickstarter for Silver Threads of Fate, the new storybook for role-player adventures. So if you want to join me, and I'm happy to answer any questions, kind of talk about the project, talk about really whatever you guys want to chat about. But it's been a while since I did one of these, so I've been a little bit incognito. But here I am, still kicking over here at Thunderworks. So I guess let's just chat about Roleplayer Adventures, right? So Roleplayer Adventures is my darling. It's the game that I've poured many hours of my life and energy into in the last decade. And this new book called, drumroll, Silver Threads of Fate, is the new addition to the system. So Roleplayer Adventures is a story, narrative-driven adventure game. Kind of coming out of kind of our a line of role-player games. So Roleplayer is the game that kind of started a lot of things for Thunderworks. It wasn't our first game that we ever published. It wasn't the first game I ever designed, but it was kind of the one that put me and Thunderworks on the map for a lot of people. So Roleplayer is a dice manipulation, competitive, character creation game, and with much success and multiple expansions, there's kind of a cry for people who they love the game so much and they love the characters that they built so much that they decided they wanted to do something with their characters, right? So Roleplayer Adventures is it was kind of an answer to that question of like, okay, I made these cool characters, now what do I do with them? So we gave, like any good hero, you need an adventure to go on. So that's kind of where Roleplayer Adventures came from. I teamed up with a local friend, game designer, and writer named James Ryan, and put together over multiple years Roleplayer Adventures. James's brother Peter also helped out on the base game, and we had some other folks that lent a hand just because Roleplayer Adventures has well over 400,000 words in it, which is kind of bananas, right? So the approach for what Roleplayer Adventures is, Gloomhaven was out. There was other kind of tactical fantasy adventure games out there, like Mice and Mystics and other things. And my focus for Roleplayer Adventures was less a tactical game that has story, and more of a story game that has some mechanical pieces to it, and kind of leaning into the mechanics of Roleplayer. So if you've played Roleplayer Adventures, and I hope you have, you know that it's all about experiencing an amazing story, making interesting decisions, and kind of interacting with the world and the world responding to you, right? So any character that you run into, you might have some kind of interaction with them, and depending on how you handle that, then the rest of the story is going to change dramatically as a result. And that's always been a promise of these kind of choose-your-own-adventure style games, either in video game format or in board game format. But I always found that in the end, it didn't really feel like the story changed much as a result of my choices. So that was one goal that we kept at the forefront during development of Roleplayer Adventures, of like, we need to make sure that choices matter, and that the kind of they're not just what I like to call false choices. They're like real choices, right? So we did Roleplayer Adventures. We did a reprint of Roleplayer Adventures with a new expansion. So there's two expansions that exist for Roleplayer Adventures: the Nephros' Judgment and the Gullpax's Secret. And then we decided, these are big projects, take a lot of time. So James and I started kind of talking about what it would be like to develop more stories with the existing stuff that people already have, right? So trying to create more smaller things, smaller in terms of physical product, but kind of to keep RPA going, right? So we've been working on a third expansion for Role Player Adventures, which is large and very involved. But at the same time, we started like, well, I want to create something to kind of tide people over, give people something interesting to play in the system before we kind of deliver the big next big piece of the pie. And that's kind of where this came from. So we set up restrictions, right? We said, well, you can't we can't have new cards. We can't have anything that that the people who have the base game don't already have. So we're kind of limited to that. So it's kind of like, you know, you've got a canvas to paint on, right? It's not like the world is your oyster, like usually you think about when you start working on games. It's kind of like, all right, here's a very restricted kind of palette of things we can do, and let's see how creative and what we can do with that. Um, so we started working on this a while back, and the first thing we have to figure out is like, okay, well, we need an adventure map. We have 12 in the base game. Which one do we want to kind of land this story into? And we ended up landing on the Adventure 4, the Eye of Ulos one, which has a bunch. It's kind of nice that you're into the campaign a little bit, so you know some of the characters. Um, not all of them, but you know some of the main characters already, and it's there's a lot of dynamic things happening in that environment. Assuming you've played the Eye of Ulos adventure, but there's these massive rifts over the sky. You've got a king doing some shady stuff in the castle. There's big explosions happening at the arena, so we decided that was where we wanted to put our setting. And then it turned into, what characters do we want to include? And I was kind of inspired a little bit by seeing the Dungeons and Dragons movie, the Honor Among Thieves. There's a moment in that movie, if you've seen it, where like the heroes are like in a labyrinth or like some kind of big puzzle thing, and the camera pans over, and there's a bunch of other adventurers in the same space, and it's all the characters from the cartoon show, from the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon show from the 80s. And I was thinking, like, what if our adventurers are like that? So the people going through the main story are going through whatever objectives they have, and there's other adventurers there as well, and you don't interact with them, but they're kind of experiencing some of the similar things, and they have their own storyline. So that's kind of where we started, and then we just started saying, well, what do we want to do new? So the one thing that we learned during Gullpact, well, really after the base game, is that people really loved these unique skill checks. These kind of not just like not just the standard skill check or the standard combat. People like these kind of elaborate, more mechanical pieces. So the goal was to do something really different for the finale, right? So we wanted to create a memorable moment that didn't play like anything else in the campaign, or any other Role Player Adventures product that we were going to kind of place as the finale of this adventure. And then we decided we needed to bring in new characters, right? So that was kind of interesting. Whereas in the base game, you have a character, you're playing through 11, maybe 12 adventures, and you're kind of slowly growing over time, getting more powerful, kind of increasing all your stats along the way. Here we have a single adventure. We don't have this. We don't have the moment in which you're leveling up between adventures like you do in Role Player Adventures. Here, we kind of have to level you up quickly, so that you can feel like you're getting more powerful, and we're not just doing like level 1 and level 2 skill checks through the entire thing. It's like we want to be able to access the more difficult monsters and the more difficult skill checks along the way. So it became this like where we compressed kind of maybe 2/3 of the campaign's worth of advancement into one adventure, right? So there's the thing that's kind of fun about this one is that you're constantly being given rewards, and which is fun because you're like, every time I do something, I get something amazing, and it feels pretty cool. So that was one piece that we had to consider in terms of compressing a kind of a campaign's worth of advancement into one adventure. And then other things that we were thinking about is like, well, if it's only one adventure, like how long is this thing? So we've always had this kind of rough target of making an adventure about 2 hours long. Um, and so that was kind of the target for this one, although because it's kind of a one-off thing, we said, well, we can go a little bit longer than that, right? So, and we had a big story to tell in a small adventure, in a single adventure, I should say. So it goes a little bit longer than your standard adventure, but not by an outrageous amount. Um, so that was kind of an interesting thing to think about. Well, what interesting story can we tell that still has kind of an epic feel, that's still within kind of this 2 to 3 hour gameplay length, like giving players enough decisions to make sure that they're and giving opportunities for those decisions to pay off. So it was kind of interesting of thinking about, well, we kind of cut the faction changes because we don't have a long campaign to see that going up and down. So that got changed into something else. Um, and we also decided like what other new systems can we add on kind of layered on top of the existing systems, right? So in role player adventures, there is an item use system that's kind of that's more than kind of, but it's super fun. So in role player adventures, you go to a location, you have kind of a story moment, maybe a choice, maybe what we call a dice event where you're fighting somebody or doing some kind of skill check, and then you have these items that you've picked up along the way, and you can try to use those items at the locations, either by themselves or with another item to solve puzzles, or a lot of times there'll be kind of a moment of humor that we get to deliver, and kind of reward players from being creative about how they want to use items in different situations. So they offer like a moment of discovery for players of I want to explore this world a little bit more, so I'm going to try using these items. And there's unique entries in the storybook for every item, in every combination of other items, in every combination of locations. So there's quite a bit of text dedicated to kind of these non-critical path things, right? There's the primary path through the adventure, and then as you go through it, you can kind of go exploring as much as you want. And there's unique text and entries there to read, and some unique rewards. There's some really nice cards and some other mechanical rewards that you get by just exploring in the game, exploring the systems. So one of the focuses of this one was trying to bring in some of the characters that you're familiar with and having new interactions with them and getting to know them a little bit better, getting to understand their motivations a little bit better. And so we decided, okay, well, what if we had these characters that came along with us, right? So in role player adventures, you get allies, and they just kind of sit by your party journal, and they give you some kind of mechanical benefit during combat or skill checks. But now we decided to take those allies and kind of fold them into the narrative more. So that means we have a system called consulting an ally. So instead of you're at a location, instead of using this object or combining them together, you can choose to say, hey, ally, what do you think of this situation? Or what do you think of this location? Or what's going on here? So you can consult your ally, and there's a special entry just to see what that guy or that gal says about that thing or about the situation you're in. So that's kind of on top that we've got the item usage, and now you can consult allies, and as you might suggest, or as you might think, not only can you consult an ally, you can also consult an ally with an object. So it's like if I've got this cool orb and we're in a castle, I can say, hey ally, what do you think of this castle? But I can also say, hey ally, what do you think of this orb while we're in this castle? So it's kind of a variant of the item use system, but instead of us coming up with crazy ideas of how these two objects could possibly interact with each other, it turns into like you're kind of having this conversation with one of your allies, and they're revealing lore. They're kind of giving you hints about solving puzzles or whatever. And then one of the other challenges about doing these adventures is trying to trying to figure out like what once we've decided we're going to do allies, we got to figure out which ones we want to use, and then we have to figure out like what items that exist in the world do we want to bring to that place for players to use, and then also trying to think about what are the locations. One of the early ideas was, in Role Player Adventures, they've got these location cards that kind of go on top of the map and expand the map. So oftentimes you'll discover a new place, and that pulls out a card, and you put it on the map, and there's a picture of that place. And so the place that you discovered wasn't on the map originally, and now it is, and now you can go to that place and investigate it. So all those cards were designed specifically for that spot on the map in mind. Now we're kind of retroactively saying, I want to take these map cards from other maps and put them on this map to kind of mix up the components a little bit more and give us more freedom of what we can do. So we kind of had to come up with a narrative reason why you could be in a dungeon cellar location while you're out in the woods on the map. And kind of the thing that we ended up going back to was there's these big rifts in the sky, and these rifts can kind of open up and take you to other places while you're still on the main adventure map. So that was kind of a interesting kind of narrative explanation of being able to take map cards from one adventure and use them on a totally different map. I'm going to answer some of these cool questions from you guys. Thanks for joining me, by the way. Thanks to Mark. It looks like we funded, so that's exciting. And he enjoyed RPA through COVID. Hello to Johnny. So Olaf is asking about a German language version. So there isn't currently plans for one. That doesn't mean we won't do one. So the way that we work is Thunderworks does all the English productions of our games. We're in the U.S. We're English focused, and then we reach out to potential publishers in other countries who do things in other languages. For Role Player Adventures, the German language version was done by Schwarcraft, and it's basically going to be, we're going to start talking to them soon, and we'll say, hey, do you want to make this thing? And if they do, then we sign a contract, and they translate it and have it made and make it available to in your language. And if they pass on it, they pass on it. So Thunderworks doesn't really head up the other language versions. We find partners in those territories, and then it's kind of a little bit hit and miss whether we find a partner that's interested in that title and that language, because not every game is great for every country. Whether there's different cultural differences that makes it not as interesting for them, or like we just don't find a good partner that has interest for whatever reason. So that's something that we're always chasing, trying to find new localization partners for our different titles. There's even our older titles are still finding new partners in different languages. So like there's a new Hungarian version of Role Player that's on the way. That obviously that game came out. I released that game in 2016, but here we are in 2025, and Hungary is going to get their first version. So in terms of Silver Threads, I don't have any news about other languages besides English. I hope we do, but that's kind of all I know. So Johnny Rocks says, can this be played as a standalone adventure? Yes. So as long as you have Role Player Adventures, just the box and the components, then you can play this. Technically, having never played Role Player Adventures before, right? So you're going to use a brand new character. You go through this adventure, and then that's kind of the end of the story. That's the end of that character's story. It doesn't link directly into Role Player Adventures. It happens storyline timeline. It happens kind of at the same time as the players are going through the adventure for Iolus. This story is all about um, time. So you are, there are the silver threads of fate, which is basically there's a goddess that we're introducing. This character right here, this is Sleekrath, and she is the goddess of binding. And she's holding the world together because it's kind of falling apart. And to do that, to stop the hemorrhaging, she stops time. And your job, for whatever reason, you're not stopped. You're the only people that have not been frozen in time. So you kind of see the world in a frozen state. And part of your job and part of Sleecraft's task that she gives you is to basically collect the silver threads of fate, and so you have to run around and finding allies that are frozen in time, and you have the power with her assistance to unfreeze them, and then they can join you on your journey. So there are 5 different allies that you can unlock along the way. And you can unlock 2 per playthrough. So every time you play, you might unlock a different set of heroes or allies to join you along the way. And what's fun is the allies, they don't really like you. Some of them don't like each other very much. So depending on who you decide to pick up, the different other allies are going to react differently. So I always think of, I love that, like, having multiple allies that don't get along, right? So there's like, I always think of the original Baldur's Gate PC game where there's like, the characters will like bicker with each other, or they'll disagree, or you can kind of get a sense for how they like or dislike each other, which makes the world feel more real and kind of adds a lot of character to the experience. So we kind of tried to do some of that. So you'll see on the Kickstarter page, you can kind of it's pretty easy to decipher that. You'll see Tarek Nowlin, the kind of the rogue who works for the king, and King Terran is in the story, because both of those characters in the Eye of Ulo's storyline, he's about to jump through a portal, and so he gets frozen in time, and you can unfreeze him and then go on adventures with him before time gets restored. And then Tarek, of course, Tarek and Terran, and then Commander Zalek, dark elf guy. He works for the crown. He works for Terran. And then we have Rose, who works for the Starlit Door, which is a secret cult. This is called the Starlit Door. And at the beginning of the story, you are a member of the Starlit Door, and the Oracle comes to you and says, "Hey, you're gonna go steal this massive magical sewing needle from a god, which turns out to be Sleekrath." And so Rose is blowing up the arena, which happens in the normal timeline, and you get to meet up with her. And Zalek, if you've played Zalek is at the arena, like right after the explosion, so he's hanging out there. And then you run into Zareth, who is like this. She works for the Starlit Door, but she's also kind of a little bit. She's a witch. She's a little cruel and heartless, and which is why we love her. And then there's some other characters we run into. I don't want to give everything away, but there's some familiar characters we run into, and you get to choose which ones you want to release from time, and try to solve the puzzles of the silver threads of fate. Talking about these games is hard for me because I'm very, very excited about it. But the thing that I love about role player adventures is the discovery. Like, I love creating something for other people to discover, and so I'm very sensitive about spoilers. I don't want to give like too many spoilers away because I want people to really enjoy experiencing the story themselves, which makes it hard to tell people how awesome it is because I don't want to give too much stuff away. So let me ask Mark's question. Do you have to play maps 1 through 3 first? You do not. You don't have to play any role player adventures to play this. Now, if you have played role player adventures, you're definitely going to get more out of it because you'll have, in the first scene you'll run into Tarek Nowlin, and if you've never played role player adventures before, you don't really know who he is besides the brief description in the book. And we did provide a little bit of a background. Let me see. I can pull this open. So in the book, there's kind of like the story so far, and it kind of talks about some of the major characters that are in this story, and like a little bit, kind of what I like to call like G.I. Joe placard style, where it's like their stats and who they work for and kind of their main motivation. So you can kind of, if you haven't played Roleplay Adventures for a while, or you just haven't played it at all, you can kind of get up to speed on this stuff a little bit. But you don't have to have played Roleplay Adventures to enjoy this, although I think you'll get a little bit more out of it if you have, especially if you played the first 4 adventures. But that being said, it's not required at all. And you don't need any expansions or anything. You're going to use all cards from the base game, and you're going to build your character exactly like you do in the base game. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Ian says, just stopping by and to say quick, congrats on the quick funding. RPA is one of the few Thunderworks titles I don't have at this point. Maybe one day. Yeah, I mean, Roleplay Adventures is a big game. I get it. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to do these. Like, it's a big game, takes up a lot of shelf space, and people, it takes a while to play. It's not a short game. And we wanted to add more value, like give people more reason to hold on to their big RPA box because there's more content coming. And here you can enjoy a brand new story, for pretty affordably using the content you already have. So that was one of the goals. And assuming this goes well and people respond positively to it, we'd like to do more of this kind of stuff in terms of just adding more content. One of the things that we did during the release of Roleplayer Adventures originally is that we created this document that's called How to Write an Adventure. And I don't remember how many pages it is, but it's not short. It's like, I think at least 60 pages of kind of us outlining how we make these things and, what the best practices are and what kind of the process of going through how you just make kind of the core decisions at the beginning to set yourself up for success. And there's been a few people that kind of took the bull by the horns and decided to build their own adventures and post it online. And so we decided, like, well, let's do it. Let's show them how it's done, So we made our own adventure, kind of with the core team. So the writer, as I mentioned, James Ryan is the same writer that wrote the vast majority of Roleplayer Adventures, the base game. And so James and I have been working on this. It's been fun to kind of get back into the swing of, we've built these processes when we built the first game, and we kind of continue to refine them and get better at them. So I think the stories are getting better, and I think the organization of the information, and we've learned so much making these games that I think they just keep getting better and better. So that's fun. And we also have all the lore that we've built up over all these games that we can kind of lean into and be like, a lot of times, they say, oh, here's a field of flowers, and then I say, and we make up some name for the flowers or something. I was like, actually, we have flowers in this world already, and I have like a wiki page where I can like look up the world of Ulos and see what flowers we've established in the world already, and think, well, could these be the same flowers? And it gives us an opportunity to kind of, instead of just kind of putting out lots of different things, focusing on the things that we do have and kind of deepening the lore on the things that we already have. So that's always fun, and it's very common when we're working on these things. I'd be like, that's got to go on the wiki because there's like some new feature, like so that we name a new god, or we kind of develop some new custom for the frogkin, and it's like, okay, well, we need to record this, so then we might want to use this type of thing in the future, and we kind of know where we've talked about it before, so that we don't create incompatibilities, right? So that we try to create a consistent world, right? So the way to create a interesting, believable, immersive world, one of the keys is consistency. The world has to make sense, and if you don't keep track of all these details over all these games, it's real easy to fall into inconsistency. Cool. Let me answer some of these questions. So Erwin says, if you already passed chapter 4 in your campaign, can you add it? So to be clear, this story is not part of the core campaign. They live in separate worlds. Well, in the same world, but on separate kind of adventures. So you could, no matter if you're playing role-player adventures, no matter where you are in it, you can just be like, hey, let's pause, make some new characters, and go through the one-shot, which is basically what this is. And then get back to your normal campaign, and you'll have a little bit more insight into the world, but it doesn't, anything that happens in this story doesn't affect the character that you're playing through the main campaign or through the GoPax campaign or anything. So that, I hope that answers your question, Erwin. Mark says, back the physical copy, but really like the digital interactive option. Is that available for any of the previous content? This is the first kind of PDF offering we've ever done. I mean, I did not think about that until right now, but if there's a desire for a PDF version of Roleplayer Adventures down the road, we could potentially do that. I mean, Roleplayer Adventures is kind of quickly going out of print, right? So we don't have a ton of copies of the base game of Roleplayer Adventures left. There are still some in distribution, but I suspect by the end of the year we'll be out of print, and I'm not sure when it's going to come back. It's a very expensive game to manufacture. It's our most expensive game that we make in terms of both the price and the cost of manufacture. And you know, right now, in the world of board games, it's a little rough, right? So there's a lot of publishers are holding on big projects. A lot of publishers are kind of taking more conservative paths until the industry is a little bit more stable. So I would say if you are interested in Roleplayer Adventures, grab it while you can. And then maybe down the road, if there's a desire for it, there's a version of it where there's no storybooks and it's just PDFs and like the cards and the miniature and the cubes and stuff. I'd have to figure out if I think there's a market for that. I mean, I'm sure there's some people that would prefer that, but when you go into manufacturing stuff, you know, you need to be pretty sure that you can find at least 2,000 people that want to buy this thing, you know, or else you end up manufacturing a bunch of product that sits in a warehouse and eventually destroyed. So, and that's not good for anybody. Johnny says, awesome. You have family in Ohio, Johnny? Come on. That's cool. I just assumed everybody was on the East Coast for you. We are 8 scenarios in RPA and are already planning our second playthrough with different characters. It is clear we've missed a lot of objective-triggered discoveries. Love the dice puzzles. Looking forward to the new mechanics without spoilers. Can you say anything about the new types of dice checks? Well, if you love the dice checks, I would say you should play GoPax. GoPax has one of the things, like I said, that we learned in RPA is that people really like the more complicated, bespoke dice events. And we really kind of leaned into that in the GoPax campaign. There's a lot more of them. They're a lot more kind of bananas crazy, unusual mechanical things. It's not just like, here's a combat card, defeat this guy, that's cool. In GoPax's Secret, there's a lot more custom checks for specific scenarios, and a lot of them have variants. So even if you get a custom check, it might be different the first time you play through versus the second time you play through. This one, because I would say because there's kind of so much story we're trying to tell in one book, in one play session, kind of the big kind of unique check is at the end, is the finale. Whereas in the other kind of skill checks and combat are a little bit closer to the kind of what I'd say a default dice event. But I can't. Well, I guess if you watch some of those videos on our Kickstarter page, I think they hint towards a little bit more about the finale. But in the finale for this one, instead of placing dice on a monster card, you place dice on the adventure map. So that should be that's my little hint of like how different the big finale is compared to other adventures. Uh, Kirk Dennison says, any Easter eggs that were spoiling? I mean, there's Easter eggs. Not as big as like in Role Player Adventures. There's the big Easter egg puzzle that that people may or may not have found. I think it's. I mean, the game is pretty old now, and I think it was spoiled on BGG. But there's on the back of the storybooks of the original game. I wish I had one handy. There's like some special symbols on the back of each book, which is a big puzzle to solve that we don't tell anybody about it, but people have figured it out. And then in Gulpax, there's also a big puzzle. I don't know if I've seen any posts about people solving it. So if any owners of Gulpax's Secret have completed the puzzle, that you should post about it on BGG so people know that it's there. But I mean, I love puzzles. I love games that have little hidden things and Easter eggs in them. There are lots of little Easter eggs in these games, but I don't really want to tell you. Oh, there you go. On hand, my team has delivered. These are some books from the. Actually, this is the Eye of Ulos book that that goes with this adventure. But these kind of these symbols on the bottom are part of a big puzzle that players can try to solve. And the result of this puzzle actually gives you some hints about some things that are coming in the future from the world of Ulos. So, yeah, there's lots of secrets. I like my secrets, you know. So, but I'm not spoiling anything more than that. Olaf said Olaf is asking about RPGs based on the world of Ulos. It's something I've thought about a lot, actually. I love RPGs. I played a lot of them, especially when I was in college. I don't play them nearly as much now. It's one of the reasons why I transitioned over to board games from RPGs, is because I wanted things that I could put in a smaller block of time as I became an adult and a father. I didn't have as much time to sit and play D&D or Shadowrun or Vampire with my buddies from college at 12 hours at a time. So I wanted gaming experiences that were smaller. And then I fell in love with board games. But I would like to do an RPG, but I'm not going to write it. I'm not a writer. I mean, I have ideas, and when I work with James on these projects, we work together, and I am constantly kind of giving him feedback on the work that he's doing. So I'm one of those guys that I can identify things that are writing that should be improved, but I'm not the one writing it, right? I don't have that skill. I'm doing other things. So, and James does a great job. Why would I want to be a writer if I ever got him? And I would like to do an RPG based on the world of Ulos. We built up a lot of lore, so I think there's a lot of kind of meat to hang. That's a weird phrase, meat to hang on RPG on. But I would want somebody who really knows what they're doing to put like to do a AAA RPG, and it just hasn't like fallen into my lap yet. I've put out feelers and I've talked to a couple RPG writers about it, but it's not something that I have chased. I mean, that's the thing. Our team is small. We've got 4.5 people, and we've got all these board games we want to make, and every product that we make takes a ton of effort and energy and thought, and it just means like putting the RPG on the calendar means I'm not putting other board games that I want to make on the calendar, so that becomes a thing. But I wouldn't rule it out. I've been talking about doing a World of Ulos RPG for a long time. It could happen someday. It's not happening today, but it could happen someday. I'd like to, but I would need to partner with somebody who's strong in that space. Hey Seppi, good luck. Kirk says, with risk, other Thunderworks worlds could intersect with Ulos in a future one-off campaign. So Kirk's suggesting that like you could step through a rift in Ulos and uh, be teleported to the Metro Runner world and hang out in Mirror City and do some jobs and hack the network and then go back to Ulos. So there you go. There's something. It's always. I mean, that's kind of the nice thing about having a world that has you know rifts where you can go to any plane that you want. There's really no limit on what we can do, right? So if we want to make, I just I just watched Anything Everywhere All at Once the other day. So if you've seen that movie, you know what I'm talking about. But like, if we wanted to take a rift to a world where everybody else has hot dogs for fingers, we could do that, right? There's no there's no limitation. So something to consider for sure. Um, cool. And Mark says, Frogkin riding water slides in Tenpenny Parks. Right, that is true. And the thing about Tenpenny Parks, if you're not familiar, that's an amusement park riding game that we publish that's really cool, and we've got some expansions coming out for that in the next year, by the way. Um, and that particular location is kind of it's not really squared into one time and place. There's like underwater rides and there's space rides and there's fantasy rides and it's kind of like a big melting pot of different themes in one thing. So actually the Tenpenny Parks connection to Ulos is not outrageous. And if you have played Tenpenny Parks, there are some World of Ulos Easter eggs, or like there are some rides that are named after things in the World of Ulos, and there's some more of them as well in the new expansion. So that's cool for me. I mean, I think fans like it too, but I mainly make these Easter eggs to amuse myself more than anything. Anyway, damn it, Kirk. So yeah, um, we're not talking about that project yet, Kirk Dennison. But anyway, what else is happening? We've been doing this thing for 42 minutes. If you guys have any questions, feel free to shout them out in the chat. I'm happy to answer anything Thunderworks related, or the team, or games in general. Um, I always enjoy running my mouth for a few minutes online and kind of reconnecting with some of our fans. So that's definitely a good benefit. Anyway, I must say thanks to everybody who backed the campaign. Thanks to everybody who's a Thunderworks fan or role player or adventures fan. It's every single show that I go to. We do like 4-ish kind of consumer, maybe 5 shows, conventions a year. This year we just finished up UK Games Expo a couple weeks ago. I hadn't been there before, so this is the first time Thunderworks was there, and a lot of people came up to us and were just like excited to see that we came across from America, and we're excited that we were there. And we do Origins is next week. We will be there. We being me, I will definitely be there, and Harrison will be with me and some other folks, and including we're kind of focusing on Emerald Skulls, which is our latest release, which came out a couple months ago, and the designer Stephen Dass is going to be there demoing games, so that's exciting. And then in August, just a few months away, we will be at Gen Con in Indianapolis, Indiana, for the big U.S. show. And then we're in October, we're doing our local show here in Madison, Wisconsin, which is called Gamehole Con. And there's some other industry shows that we do. But what I was going to say is that every single show I go to, and this is like, is very flattering, and I don't want to like pat myself on the back or anything, and because there's a lot of people that make these things happen, but almost I think every single show, at least one person will come up to me and just want to say hello, and just want to tell me that Role Player Adventures is their favorite game of all time, and that's crazy, right? Like that somebody holds something that I created in such high regard and got so much joy out of it is like it's crazy to hear. So that kind of encourages me to continue working on these things, and lets me know that there's still some appetite for more Role Player Adventures content. Makes me want to keep working on these things, because these these types of games, these narrative games, are a lot of work. They're definitely more work than an abstract strategy game of some kind or like that. So um, yeah, so they're a lot of work, but people love them. I love them. We're gonna keep doing them, keep making them as long as people enjoy them. So uh, there you go. And so that's Role Player Adventures. If you haven't played it, you should. It's great. The 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 one thing I want to talk about real quick is that the the experience I wanted to create for players when playing Role Player Adventures is to be able to meet other players who are playing it and have dramatically different experiences. So especially when it comes to the story. So I always call it like the water cooler moments where there was um, where somebody went on this played this adventure, this other group played this other adventure. These people made these decisions, and these people made these decisions, and then they could come and contrast their experiences and kind of show the dynamic nature of the game that I think very few other games do. And I think I think this new the Silver Threads is going to do that because you're limited on what allies you can recruit, and it's going to be a different experience for folks along the way. One thing I didn't talk about at all. What is these? My desk is a mess, you guys. Here they are. Is one thing we decided to do instead of just offering the book. We're like, well, let's add some new characters, right? So these are some prototype prints of the new characters. We found this fantastic artist to help us out with these. These are a new artist that we're using, David. And so these are just prints that I had at a local print shop, just to kind of feel, have them in my hand and be able to look at them. And these all say unknown for their names at the bottom because we wanted to allow backers to get a chance to be a part of the naming process for these guys. So there's 12 of them. Here, this is your human Templar. Here's your Vargar Crusader, looking awesome. And then here's your Minotaur Ranger. He's cool. And Wrathborn Thief is this young person, or I guess they're Wrathborn. So this is the Dragonkin Wizard. I love the colors on these. They're just blowing my mind. And here's your Bastia Knight. So there's 12 of these, and two in each class color. And everybody's favorite, the Kaika Monk. If you want to be a karate kick penguin, here's your opportunity. This is a Sheki Warlord. He looks ferocious, made out of bark. Here's your Gnomish Psionic. The lighting on this one is like crazy dynamic. David did an amazing job. Here's the Orc Shaman. This one is my favorite. I love it's such a unique kind of headpiece that he's got on. Details great. Here's a Frogkin Illusionist. He's got a big old gem. And then finally, we saw this one before, but this is the Construct Assassin. You don't want this guy on your trail, that's for sure. So it's fun. The Orc is my favorite, but I think the Dragonkin is probably my second in line. So he's awesome too. So I think it just adds more variety to the experience, right? So that's what we got. So there's 12 new of these. It's a significant number, 2 in each class color, and kind of trying to hit you with different combinations of weapons and armor and traits and skills and the other pre-generated characters, and kind of having the classes mixed up and all that kind of stuff. So the question is about how does this work with the backstory? So there are, I believe, 41 different backstories. I should know this, but I don't. So they're all based on the backstory cards that are in Role Player, plus the expansions, plus the promos. And so all the pre-gens have those backstories. And if you play with Nephros's Judgment, you get to kind of explore that backstory more so, right? So these characters all have one of the backstories from role player. So, for example, let's take a look at, well, Harrison mentioned the gnome, so we'll talk about the gnome, even though I don't know what kind of people like gnomes. No, okay. Shows your gnome. He's got the lost soul backstory. So there's multiple characters could have, because we have so many pre-generated characters. Some of them, multiple of them will have the lost soul. But if you're playing with Nephros's Judgment, then just make sure everybody's got a different backstory. With 42 to choose from, I think you can find a few different ones to pick from. So that's the story on that. Some of these, with the GoPax expansion, we ended up adding some of the pre-gen started out with familiars, whereas in all the base game ones, none of them started with familiars. So these also, some of them start with a familiar. And if you're the Orc Shaman, you actually start out with, drum roll, 2 familiars. So you get both the Ice Bear and the Shadow Drake if you're playing this guy. So he's cool. So lost characters. Hey, we found them, and you can get them too. So we've got the digital version. So if you just want to not worry about shipping and not pay for that, and worry about, if you're in the U.S., worry about tariffs, and you want it soon, then you go for the PDF. And there's a new party journal that is just for this adventure that they'll be included in there that you can print off, or you can just mark on it if you want to, take a screenshot and write on top of it. Or you can, if you get the physical version, it will be shipped to you in most of the world, and you also get the digital version as well. So you get the digital version in September, and then you'll get the physical version in March when it's printed and shipped. And that version comes with the cards. You can get the cards by themselves as well. And then we've got the pledge level for people who are just kind of discovering Roleplay Adventure for the first time. And so it's like the Roleplay Adventures all-in bundle. If you are a Roleplay Adventures fan and you just don't have all the pieces, like you never got Nephros, or you never got Gulpex, or you decided you want the metal coins, or you never got a chance to read the Tales of Ulos graphic novel, all that stuff's available on our website that you can order right now and have shipped to you, not immediately, but within a couple days. If you're interested in the lore of the world of Ulos, the graphic novel is pretty interesting because it's 4 short stories within the graphic novel, and some of them are backstories to kind of minor characters in the campaign. So if you played the core campaign and you got to what is the name of the adventure? The one with the boats. You'll know what I'm talking about if it's the one with the boats. Then one of those boats is captained by Captain Kamon, and the other one that you can choose is captained by a different captain. And one of the stories in the graphic novel is kind of the backstory of Captain Kamon. So he's like kind of a minor character in the pantheon, but he kind of gets his moment to shine in the graphic novel, and get to learn more about him. So there's things like that. If you're familiar with Zareth, who's the witch from the Starlit Door, you interact with her in the Ghost Eaters in the Forgotten Forest adventure, and you can learn a lot more about her. You learn a lot more about her in the graphic novel, and actually in the Gulpex campaign, you get to learn about her too. So those witches live a long time. So she's been around. She exists in the Gulpex campaign, which is 2,000 years before the main campaign, and she's in the main campaign. There's a couple other characters. I don't want to spoil too much stuff, but there's a couple characters that are in both Gulpex and the base campaign that are 2,000 years apart. So it's interesting to see how that plays out. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks again for pledging. Thanks for being Thunderworks supporters. Couldn't do any of this stuff without you guys, to be honest. So I feel very blessed and lucky to be able to do what I do and make these games and have folks like you that are interested in the stuff that we do. So I can't thank you enough. And I know right now, a lot of people are tightening their wallets because things are a little tough for some folks, and I think other people have some Kickstarter fatigue as well. There's been some creators out there that aren't the best actors, and maybe people have had some bad experiences. My goal is to make sure that every backer has a great experience on our projects. The goal, deliver on time, if not early, make sure the games are high quality and communication's clear, and we're just trying to do a good job by you. So yeah, thanks for just hanging out in my office. It was a little bit of a mess, but that's the way it goes. And we will see you next time. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.